Hello and welcome back to Coding with Kenny G. This is the beginner series, and in this episode we are going to learn something called functions. So it says local functions here. Well, we're going to learn about that. A class has typically several functions or methods, sometimes it's called, within it, in order to do operations, logic, business logic, game logic. There are many words for it, but functions are essentially code blocks where we do things inside of the class itself. So let's get started with some coding, shall we? Gonna close this, and then we're gonna open up the turret scene. That is the scene that we have been working on with the last few episodes, where we have the hello world game object currently where the turret script is assigned. We're going to open up the turret script in Visual Studio, and we're going to be working on this script. So this video is going to be a little bit meaty because it actually touches a lot of concepts within programming in a short amount of time. So first of all, we're going to create a function, and this is a paradigm, design paradigm from the olden days of programming called getters and setters. And just gonna write it out, and then we're gonna describe what is happening. So essentially below the area where we have our public variables, I'm just gonna have a little bit of space between there, and then we're gonna write our first getter. So it's gonna be a function. It'll be written as public void for now, but I'm gonna discuss that, and get turret name. Now when we are writing a function, we are using something called Pascal case, which means that every word starts with a capital letter. So get turret name, and then we're going to end it with an opening and a closing parentheses, and then we're going to add curly braces to it, and then press enter, and then Visual Studio will kind of line this up for us when we press enter like that. You will notice that this does not have a semicolon defined anywhere because this is a function. It is the same as, or written the same as, the private void start below here, but now we are defining our own function inside of the class called turret. Yeah. So first of all, we use the access modifier. Public means that it's accessible to anyone. This script, this class, and outside scripts that are talking to the script. Void is the return type. And now we're going to demonstrate what this means. Void means returning nothing. It's essentially like a function just does an action on something and doesn't return a value. But we're going to try to return a variable here. So I'm inside of the curly braces of the function get turret name. Yeah, you see here, I'm just going to give it a little bit of space so that you see what's going on. I'm going to write return, and then I want to return the turret name. Return turret name. and end with a semicolon. So this is not gonna work. This function is not working right now. And if we hover over the red squiggly line on the return statement, the return part of the function is void. That does not work because we are trying to send out of the function a string. And this variable is of type string. Therefore, we have to return, instead of void, we have to return string. Okay? This means that when we are calling this method getTurretName, the function here returns the value of the variable turretName. Okay, so this is a paradigm called a getter. We get the value of something. Instead of getting a variable directly, we're gonna hide these variables a little bit later on. But for now, we are just okay, I need to it's a little bit complicated to do this kind of on the fly because there's a lot of concepts happening here. But return is a C# keyword, meaning that we deliver the value of a statement or variable. But let's just try to use this function first, and then we can try to understand what's actually happening here. So instead of down here in the start function, right, we have a statement called debug.log my name is, and then we used we talked to a variable directly here called turretName. But I'm going to delete that reference to the variable turretName. And instead of referencing that variable, I'm going to write after the plus sign here, in capital letters, so Pascal case, get turret name, and then I'm going to end it with a opening and a closing parentheses. And then what is happening is that we're calling this function getTurretName from here. Yeah? Hey, can I get the turret name, please? And then it goes into the function, and then it evaluates the return keyword, where it returns a variable called turretName with the value of the default value of Big Bazooka, or if we overrode it in Unity with another value. This right here is the same currently as referencing the variable directly, but now we are using a function instead. This can be a little bit, whoa, now we're starting to get a little bit complicated already, right? Like this is not, there's a lot of things happening here. We had to learn the return type of a function. In this case, it's a string, because we are trying to return to the caller a string where we are referencing a variable with the type of string. Whoa, it's a little bit complicated, but you know, we are going to get used to this. And we are going to try to replace these statements below here with function calls instead. But let's save this script and see if it just works the same as before, right? Now that we are doing a function call inside here. Yes, save the script, Ctrl-Shift-S, go back to Unity. No compiler errors. Be mindful, by the way, when we are calling a function, right? We need to actually include the opening and closing parentheses every single time we are calling a function. So be mindful that you have an opening and a closing parentheses after the get turret name here, and that yes, good. Or else you will get a compiler error and it'll say red text here, something is wrong. Okay, I'm gonna clear the console, press play, and we expect the exactly same results as before. Hello world, I'm a turret, my name is Big Bazooka, but the name Big Bazooka is now coming from a function call where we are calling get turret name, and the function is returning the turret name variable value of Big Bazooka. And the same, if I change this to Kenny G in the inspector, we now expect this to return the value of Kenny G, as we went through in the earlier episodes here, the variables episode. I'm going to reset the turret script again to have the default values of Big Bazooka. Press play again. Okay, wow. So that was a little bit complicated, right? Just understanding this concept of calling a function and getting a returned value. Okay, but you know, when we are writing functions, right now in the start function below here, we have two we are calling two debug.logs inside of the start function. How about we write a function where we return an introduction? Let's write it together. Okay, so this is also going to return a string. So we're going to call it public string get introduction, opening and closing parentheses, and then opening and closing curly braces, press enter so that it lines up like that. And now we are going to build out this function so that it essentially does the same as this down here below, but it's going to be a little bit cleaner. So we're going to write some local variables inside of the function. This is a new concept. So I'm writing string. This is a local variable. String, what are we going to call it? We're going to call the variable hello world. Now we're using camel case, so a small capital letter at the start. String hello world equals and then opening and closing quotation marks, we're gonna write hello world. I am a turret. So it's exactly the same as we wrote below, hard-coded here in the start function inside of a debug log statement. So we built a string, and then we make another variable called string my name is, and it equals to my name is, and then a white space, and then we're going to end that with a semicolon, and then we are going to call a function from inside of a function. Whoa. Function inception. We're going to create one more local variable inside of here called string, and we're going to call it I'm struggling because I just don't want to confuse you right now. We're gonna call it my turret name is equal to, and now we're gonna call the function get turret name with Pascal letters, so large letters, and then end it with an opening and a closing parentheses and a semicolon. Then we're gonna write yet another variable, local variable inside this function. It's called a string. Final result in camel case equals hello world. So we're referencing our local variable here, white space, plus my name is variable here below it, plus my turret name, and then end with a semicolon. So what this is doing is that it's combining three different variables. Hello world plus my name is variable, right? Plus my turret name. Essentially, this is doing the string concatenation that we did below here in the start function. But we're building it into a variable. And then we are going to return final result. So we are returning the value of the final result variable. Wow. Kind of tricky, huh? But this is a little bit cleaner. This is how we can sort of structure code inside of a function where we are creating local variables. These variables, they only live inside of this function called getIntroduction. What's called being within the scope of the getIntroduction function within the opening and closing curly braces of the getIntroduction function. Now we're going to use this function down here in the start function. Now I'm gonna teach you how to comment out code. You can either, in front of the first debug.log statement where it says hello world, you can write 2 forward slashes, then it'll comment out this code. it'll treat it as a comment, so the code will no longer actually run. Yeah, it's a comment. Or you can select the line by click dragging, and then we're going to use a chord in Visual Studio. So you hold down Control button, and then you click K and then C. So these are two different ways to comment out code. So these two lines here, the debug log statements inside of the start function, they are now commented out, and below them we're going to write a new debug.log statement. Debug.log, open parentheses, and inside of the parentheses here we're going to call the function that we just made. So get introduction, and then an opening and a closing parentheses inside there, opening and closing parentheses to do a method call here, and after the closing parentheses of debug.log end with a semicolon. Wow. So essentially we are now moving functionality of the code into functions. We are going to test this code, see if it runs. The expected result is that it'll print one line into the debug console where it'll say, hello world, I am a turret, my name is, and then the result of the function call from getTurretName. And then we're concatenating these three variables together into one string, which is called a final result. And that's what we are going to be displaying. I'm going to go through the motions of this stuff one more time afterwards. But now we're going to save this script, go back to Unity, and then in the console, clear, and press play. Now, hopefully this will work, right? So, now it prints the console, hello world, exclamation mark, white space, I am a turret. Uh-oh, there's a little thing here where we don't have a white space after I am a turret, exclamation mark. Should be a little white space after that, right? We can fix that. I'm going to show you how. But essentially, this code is now like the debug.log statement is displaying the result of the string that we are building inside of the getIntroduction function. First of all, I'm going to fix the little missing white space after the hello world, I am a turret. So before the ending quotation mark, just going to add a white space there so that there's a white space here before the end quotation mark in that string. Save the script, go back to Unity, press play. And now you see in the string here, hello world, I am a turret, and now there's a white space there between where it says my name is Big Bazooka. Okay, this video I expect you to have to kind of absorb a little bit, because this is real programming. Now we're getting into several concepts at once, but that's how we learn, right? So let's go through exactly what happens here. First of all, down here in the start function, we commented out the debug.log statements from before. They are now comments, they are ignored, they are not run when pressing play. Then we are writing debug.log, and inside of its opening and closing parentheses, we are calling a function. We are calling a function called getIntroduction that we have made, and the calling code is denoted by closing and opening parentheses for the function to do a method call or a function call. So essentially the code, when this line of code is run, it'll go like, hey, where is the function called getIntroduction? I want to go into it. So the compiler will then go through each line of code downwards until it reaches the return statement. First of all, at the top here, we are defining a local variable of the type string, which is text, yes? The name of the variable is called hello world. The variable is local to this function here. It only exists inside of the getIntroduction function. So the hello world, we give it the variable a value of a string that we write here, where we inside of opening and closing quotation marks, hello world, I am a turret, ending with a white space, so that we are prepared for the next sentence that we are making. And we end with a semicolon to produce this variable, string hello world. Then the next variable that we are creating, string my name is, that's the name of the variable, and we give it a value of my name is inside of string quotation marks that we have learned so far. And then we're doing something fancy. We're writing again string, a variable of my turret name, that's the name of the variable. We give it the value of another function call. Whoa. Wow. So what this variable is assigning to its value, right? So equals the value of what this function call is returning. So then we go into the get turret name upstairs here. The compiler will go down here for all lines of code that will be here until it reaches the return statement, and then it returns the value of the variable called turret name upstairs here. That's a field with the value of Big Bazooka, right? It returns it. So that will be the value of this variable called my turret name inside of the getIntroduction function. And then finally, we are producing a final result where we write a local variable of type string with the name of final result, and the value of that is first the hello world variable plus the my name is variable plus my turret name. Essentially, we are adding these three strings together using the plus sign. This is called string concatenation, or adding strings together. And then we are returning out of this function the variable final result. And this final result, right, like the string that we have built there, is what is actually being displayed to us in Unity. I think that this is I think this can be a little bit difficult. This is a beginner series, and this is a beginnery thing, but I think that all of a sudden you're getting a little bit of a difficulty spike, where there are several concepts to understand. So really go through this episode maybe one more time from the beginning and really try to absorb the concepts of what is happening here. And I hope that I have managed to explain it clearly enough. You can also help each other out in the comments on the YouTube video. Yeah. So thank you for watching this episode, and I hope that you are learning. So subscribe to the channel, like the video, and I'll see you in the next one.